Welcome to Learn to Thrive with ADHD. This is the podcast for adults with ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms. I'm your host, Coach Mandy John. I'm here to make your life with ADHD easier. Let's get started. So welcome back, guys. Today we have John, and I'm sorry, it's Brink?
B-R-I-N-K, Brink, yeah.
Brink, very good. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, but he is an entrepreneur, an author. You do I'm going to say the word wrong. Philanthropy? Is that how you say it as well?
Do what?
I would assume that means like you give donations, you donate money to certain.
Yeah. So I'm very involved in culture and all of those kind of things. Yes, I do.
And you have multiple businesses, but what else should people know about you?
Probably that one Saturday ago, 2 Saturdays ago, I turned 85 years young, and that's always good. And so I was born in Holland, northeastern Holland, in November the 1st, 1940. Went through the Second World War, obviously saw far too much that we should not have seen. And subsequently still, and I began to do a whole podcast about that, but it is pretty much understood. We were in the middle of a war zone for 4 or 5 years. And so, we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945. It made such an impression on me then that I knew when I grew up I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And I did. I came here in 1965. I was 24 and a half, nearly 25 years old. And I wanted to start with nothing. So I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, very little money. And then the other dream that I had, I wanted to go not to Canada, but also to British Columbia, which is on the West Coast, because my grandfather was a master carpenter, and master, I say, with honor, and because trades should be looked at very highly.
I was rereading your book again today, and I really was like touched by that part where you talked about your grandfather. I believe you said he died at 45.
Correct. I would not know him other than by the work that he did.
And you said that you were surrounded by his legacy because of the furniture that he had built. And that was just really beautiful. But sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I like that. And my dad was also in lumber. And my dream was to build my own lumber mill. But I wanted to start with nothing. So that's what I did. I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. I left for Canada in July of 1965 and with my suitcase, and I wanted to go to the West Coast, British Columbia. That's where all the trees are. And so landed in Montreal, took the train across Canada, 4 days, 5 nights. My God, that is a long way. So in any event, when I landed in Vancouver, went to the immigration department and didn't speak English, didn't know a soul, and didn't have a job. So fortunately, there was a German fellow there, and I could speak a little bit of German. So I told him what I wanted to do. He said, go to Prince George. That's where they're building sawmills. That is in central British Columbia. In British Columbia, for the people watching us from around the world, is a big, big province, beautiful one. And Prince George is exactly in the center, north to south, east to west. But it's about 800 kilometers or 500 miles north of Vancouver. So that's what I did. So they talked to that fellow and he said, go to Prince George. That's what I did. Came off the bus here with my suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. And my employer always gave this to me, this plaque. I had exactly $25.47. But what I did have attitude. I'm always positive, always happy in that way. If you're negative, don't even come close to me. And then passion, whatever I do, I give it 125%. Work ethic, I work harder than anybody. Even now, I get up usually at 5:30 in the morning, always make my bed, and always think I'm late. And so that's what I do. And then obviously I counted my money at least 3 times, $25.47.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of the way it started. And then started as a cleanup man and then became a lumber pilot. And then within a year and a half, I was the superintendent of one of the largest sawmills here. And
Yeah.
then after that, gradually I became more settled in, obviously learned to speak the language, and then started my first company in 10 years here. Brink Forest Products Ltd. is still here 50 years later, and a number of other companies. And
I want to talk about something just really quick before we, because I there is so much more. I've read your book. I know there is so much more that you have done. But that trait of you packing that suitcase and moving to another country, and I was just in Las Vegas with some friends, and we were talking about I had just gone to from California to New York or something like that by myself. And the girl that was there with talking to me, she says, "Weren't you scared?" And I'm like, "No. Why would I feel like that's an ADHD trait for us to just be able to take risk." And
exactly.
that's what you did. And so I just wanted to point out that little fact, but go ahead and continue because I know there is so much more.
So the reason that I did really is obviously because we were liberated by the Canadian Army April 12th, 1945. And then the dream that once I grew up to go to Canada. The other part was academically, I was not a success story. And I failed grade three and I failed grade seven three times. And so my parents were beautiful people, but a lot of people said to them, they said, well, what are we going to do with this guy now? And they suggested send him to the mentally challenged school. They said, no, we're not going to do that. And so then hence my dad had a friend that had a furniture factory. And at 12 and a half years old, when I failed the grade seven the third time, they sent me down there to become a furniture maker. And he said,
Mm.
and kids can be hard on each other. And teachers, I love teachers, but they were not really overly at all informed on mental diversity issues. And and
And
obviously
you can tell, but in your story of your classroom experience, it wasn't an intelligence problem. It was an interest problem. Is
exactly.
that correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And then in a lot of ways that if they would ask me, what did the teacher talk about in the last 4 hours? I have no idea. Because for all intents and purposes, I was not there. But I was
Right.
always good in math, amazingly. And I was a good writer, but not a reader. And
Mm.
and so and obviously conclusions were drawn from that were not well understood at the time, and obviously now much better understood and still evolving as we speak. Some still stigma attached to it in a way sometimes, less so all the time, I believe, hence my book and your active activities and podcasting and all those things around it uh, are
And
important.
anybody that's positive about ADHD, I just so appreciate because there is so much to be positive about with
I call
ADHD.
it, I call it, Maud, to me, the more I found out about it, the more I concluded it's a superpower. At least
Mm.
it can be. And that's the way I looked at it. And then the other part that made a change to me, and I have, when I'm podcasting, I do it from a studio that I have downtown. And I have a book there that I picked up here in January of 1997.
Oh, yes. I remember this story.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the book was by Dr. Hollywell that
Hmm.
has written 18 books, five on distraction. He is ADHD and has dyslexia. And so, and when I found that book, I had no idea about it. It was in January. I wrote in the book, and I don't have it here, but the actual book I still have. I wrote in the book in Dutch because it was some stigma attached to it that I still was somewhat ashamed of it, maybe mental disorder, whatever it was. And so I wrote in there in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
dated it January 1997. And
And
so
the doctor that you found, the book that you found, I feel is one of the most positive champions for ADHD. He
No
really
question, no
is.
question about that. And so, and the other one I should mention as well, Dr. Hallowell, as you already indicated, I'm a podcaster on the Brink with John A. Brink. My podcast number 203 is with Dr. Hallowell. Can you
Wonderful.
believe? Yeah. And so, and obviously he is the expert and I lived it. And so I thought initially when I started to read the book and then started Googling, maybe frequency of occurrence, maybe 6 to 10%, I don't know, you know. And then the more I found out about it, that I believe that the frequency of occurrence much higher than that. The
Hmm.
other one is that it is for both sexes. It can be males and females, although females
Absolutely.
portray it differently than the males, likely. And so,
Sometimes
sometimes
I was like the little boy in the classroom that couldn't sit still, except I was a little girl in the classroom that couldn't sit still. And that even at that time, I'm approaching 50 years old. And so even at that time, it wasn't that I had ADHD. Nobody understood that. It was just I was a bad kid or I was
you look,
disruptive.
and I can say that because I'm 85 years old and I'm looking at you. You look great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that. So the
Thank you.
So coming back to the schoolroom, then, to Dr. Hollywell, is that when we had the discussion, and I suggest by then I had gone, the book and then Googled it, and it took me 5 years before I even went to my doc that delivered our two daughters, and that was a personal friend, and he said to me, so I was 57 when I picked up the book. And then
Mhm.
62 when I went to my doc and he said, "Hey, John, why are you here?" I said, "I think I got ADHD." And we checked it out and I do. And
Yeah.
and so that then being said, and then skipping forward to my Dr. Hollywell again, is that I suggested to Dr. Hollywell, again, with all respect to him as the expert, but with all the researching that I had done, I came to the conclusion I suggested to Dr. Hollywell that the frequency of occurrence likely is more like 20%. And he said, "No, John, over 25%. I
Mm.
agree with that. And then the other part that he said was unique as well, because my experience was having been in business, having met a lot of people very, very successful in business, and other individuals that were successful in their fields. I suggested to Dr. Hollywell that I thought that probably 50% of the successful is the operative entrepreneurs or business people or other people of different trades that are immensely successful. 50% of them, in my opinion, were ADHD. And
Yeah.
he said to me, "No, John, probably 75%. I agree with him."
That's so interesting. And you know that number that they get of the percentage of people, they're only taking that from the people that they see in the healthcare system. How many people don't get into the healthcare system because their parents, one or the other, had ADHD and maybe they didn't figure it out. And so maybe they didn't, have the means to get them the help that they needed or get them diagnosed so that they're one of those numbers. I didn't get diagnosed until I was 42. I knew when I was probably 24 that I had ADHD for sure. But I didn't get diagnosed till 42 because I didn't see any reason to. I
No.
wasn't, I didn't need medication, I didn't think. And so I didn't see any reason to get it diagnosed. But how many don't have the means to get that diagnosis? And so they're left out of that number.
Or how many have still concerns about stigma attached to being
Hmm.
identified as doing that? And that's sizable because the other part, you're a podcaster. I'm a podcaster as well on the Brink. I've done about 497 podcasts,
It's
and
awesome.
it is amazing. The frequency of occurrence, if I in all the podcasts that I do is not necessarily about ADHD. It goes with all kinds of different things. But probably 1 in 3, I would estimate, are people that really have not been public about the fact that they maybe or are ADHD. I did a podcast this morning. A person never talked to anybody about ADHD.
Right.
She indicated it. And then the one just today and the day before, I believe the same. So
Yeah.
that then being said, is that I believe that the frequency of occurrence is likely well above 20%, 25%, may well be up to one third of mental diversity issues of different descriptions, but substantially ADHD and similar, uh, you know, uh, uh, diversity issues.
I think
And
you had somebody in the book that had a very similar experience that I did, where the story was you did. That's where I was hearing it. The story was that she was getting diagnosed with anxiety and depression and things like that instead of the ADHD that she had. And that was my story too, which was my mistake in not getting diagnosed earlier. I could have not had all the years of anxiety and depression if I had actually taken care of the ADHD. And so there's many people like that.
And with me, I'm just looking at my book, and so the person that did the forward in the book, I don't know if you remember who it is
I
here.
do.
I'm going to show it you. Is Dr. Tracy Lotz, who is
Mhm.
a medical doctor and emergency surgeon, and a friend, very 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 well known, ADHD.
Yeah.
And so it is amazing how frequently it happens that it becomes more public now, and that's the good thing. And people talking about it like you do, and like I do,
Well, and just
and
to see the positivity in it, I had somebody come on my podcast and I interviewed her and afterwards I said, "Hey, if you know of anybody else that would like to come on the podcast that has ADHD, I interview professionals and entrepreneurs and she goes, "Well, I just don't think anyone would want to talk about that." She had such like a s- a stigma about it that she was willing to talk about it, but she didn't think anybody else they would all be too ashamed. And that was upsetting to me.
yeah, and I'm not surprised about that. And that is one of the reasons that I'm very public about it.
Mm,
Those issues, not only about ADHD, dyslexia, and all the challenges along the way about that. And one of the other things that I do, I'm a speaker frequently, and then obviously an active podcaster. But the other part that I do is because I grew up during the Second World War, seeing far too much that I should not have seen. It had a real adverse effect on our family. And what I do, I was one of the few individuals left that was there and experienced it, no food and all of those kind of things. And so what I do every year for the last 10, 12 years, I do a presentation usually at regional or BC schools, usually one in the Lower Mainland in the Vancouver region, and then two in the north, speaking about why the 2 minutes of silence and what really does it mean.
mm,
And I did that, in the last couple of weeks during the week of the 11th, or so. And the school that I did the presentation, I think there were close to 1,000 students of all different grades. Now, the interesting part about that, Maud, is that I believe I'm a good presenter. And so the school was somewhat concerned about, they say, well, we can't even keep 10 or 20 of them quiet. So there you got nearly 1,000 kids. You could have heard a pin drop.
yeah. So
Uh,
you've written many books. Are any of your books about that time during the war? Because you do write about it a little bit in the one that I read, and it's sad and it's inspiring and it's interesting. But like to hear about your father having to go off and your mother having to take care of you guys and having to find food to eat and your father coming back with a bullet hole in his helmet. I
correct.
mean, just so much is there and that there's got to be so
And
much
he,
more to
and
that
he was
story.
never the same again, right? So the
Yeah.
elder was successful. The one bit I touched on it likely is Against All Odds, which is
Okay.
the first book that I wrote. as you well know, writing books is not easy, and so the so a lot of people said to me, "Hey, John, you have such an interesting life. You should write a book." And I tried to do that for 20 years. I've gone up and down and up and down, and then I knew in my mid 70s if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So I wrote this one against all odds. It's about
Mm,
all the ups and downs. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2.5 years to write it. And then from there on in, I kept writing it. But one about the war alone, no, I haven't. Although there is lots of experience and still, even when I do a presentation in schools, still emotionally very much part of me.
yeah.
And maybe that's part of it in saying to the kids and the young people right up to grade 12 in the school, your families, that we take so many things for granted in North America because we
Yeah.
haven't had war, and to say why the 2 minutes of silence and how quickly everything can change. So to appreciate first and foremost that we remember the ones that paid the ultimate price, obviously, both the Americans, Canadians, and the UK landed on Normandy at great cost, and then the Americans went east and south, and the Canadians went north through France, Belgium, and Holland, and liberated us. And to remember those and that gave the ultimate prize, but also ones that got wounded and for other reasons, were never the same again after this, but
Yeah.
paid the price. And that, I believe, is very, very important to understand. And then,
Now,
but also doing that presentation, but I do because it gives me the opportunity. Because as I look at these young persons, I know already that there is probably 1/3 of them that have
I know where
uh,
you're going. Yeah.
uh, and mental diversity issues, and
Yeah.
and so
At
and
least.
they look at me potentially, and I'm saying this with care, and you understand why, is that although it appears like I'm a very successful business person because my name is on the college here, the John Everett Trades and Conventions and blah blah blah, all of that. My name is all around here because I got companies, and they may wrongfully conclude that I probably got university degrees and God knows where I got all the money given to me and all of those kinds of things. You know how it is. So it is important to understand, so that it took me till I was 60 to figure out who am I? So because why am I so different than all the others? And those things are important to me. And but I know
Speaking of,
already.
I want to touch on something with your education that I appreciated in the book. When I was re-listening to it today, I was in my car and it made me laugh. And I believe what you said was, do you regret that you dropped out of school in seventh grade? Yeah, that's what it was, seventh grade. And you said, no, I regret I didn't drop out sooner.
Exactly. I say that during my presentations, and people say to me, "Do you regret that failed grade 7 3 times?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. Probably every day. I should have left earlier." So, and tongue in cheek, obviously, but
But you
you know,
did get a degree, an honorary one, right? Tell us about that.
yes, I had the honor of becoming an honorary doctorate of laws of the University of Northern British Columbia. And then I was recognized provincially for the Order of British Columbia. So and obviously,
Yeah, I think that's an inspiration to people that maybe feel like they didn't do well in school or college and they're older now. And I know I look back at some of my college years and I was dealing with because of my undiagnosed ADHD, I was dealing with kind of mental health issues and having trouble getting to class and having trouble following through with classes. And I look at it and go and think I could have done better and I could have done better, had better grades, or I shouldn't have gone to three different colleges, or, I could have done better. And so I did have that regret. And to hear that, we can be successful anyway. I have multiple businesses, not like you do, But that takes me to an interesting thing about you. I own a gym. That's one of my
I
other
like that.
businesses. And you are a bodybuilder. There we go. Living young, dying old.
And
And
that's the picture of me. Yes.
yeah. And
Yeah.
tell us about, so you actually competed.
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit of the background there, Mandy, is that it was in 2008, when I was already 62 years old. And so I had a case of diverticulitis. And for our guests not watching us, I'm not a doc, obviously a medical guy. If it hurts on the right, then it can be the appendix. At the left, it could be diverticulitis. It's your colon. And then if you go to a doc, and again saying I'm not a doc, but my understanding is they say eat more greens, blah blah blah, and then hopefully it goes away. In my case, in cell that happens, it ruptured. And
Mhm.
so, and then it becomes critical that you go get attention. And so that's what happened to me. I got to the hospital and they cut 20 centimeters out of my colon.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, and then when I recovered from there, obviously my wife was a vegetarian and I was not abusive in terms of what I eat, but I was not as good as I could be and she wanted me to be. And so I knew I had to change my diet. So I became I call it 80-20, and now probably more like a 90-10 vegetarian and others now, so, and then the other thing that I knew I had to do is go to the gym. But
Mhm.
before that, I was just like everybody else. Yeah, at the end of the year, we say this, that, and I'm going to buy a membership to the gym. And then 2 weeks later, you can find 100 reasons why you're too busy to go to the gym. And
Right.
and so I was one of those, and I knew I needed a trainer that worked with me because my life, I'm not trying to be important, is usually meetings from here, there, and other things. And so
Mhm.
once I have a meeting, I do everything possible to be on time and to make a commitment. So I started going to the gym, and after I did that for about 6 years, and again, from 2009, 2015, 16, somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, John, have you ever thought about competing?" I said, "Me? Yeah." I said, "Oh my God, why not? Gives me a goal." So I started working harder, and I worked pretty hard, and I got ready, to set up a training structure for bodybuilding, physique, and
Mhm.
in bodybuilding. And so I did that, and then competed in Northern British Columbia. I came in second bodybuilding, third in physique. Then did provincial, did the same, which qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. And
Yeah.
then COVID came, and things slowed down. And the training became a little bit more challenged because you could not go to the gym. And then
Right.
now again, I'm training at least 4 days a week, every day, with the trainer, and again getting ready for the Arnolds. And this is a picture of
So
me today, and I'm the
that was my
oldest.
question. Are you going to continue competition? You will.
Absolutely, I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America.
That's amazing. My husband's going to love hearing that. I can't wait to tell him. He's going to love that I spoke to you. I don't think we've talked about how many businesses you have. You have a lot, don't you?
Yeah, so the I have actually four silos. The one silo is lumber manufacturing. The second silo is warehousing, distribution, and in particular. So we are probably the largest warehousing, distribution, and logistic company in Northern British Columbia. The third one is real estate, residential, commercial, and industrial. We're very active in that area too, probably one of the biggest ones in Northern BC. And then the fourth one, you like this one, is media. So I'm a presenter. I am an author, and then I'm a very active podcaster and do those kind of things. And then thinking about building a platform. So in the next 4 to 6 months.
And your YouTube, you said you had, what was it, 1.9 million?
At 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube
That's
alone.
amazing.
And then it is on the other podcasts as well. But from YouTube, they give you a plaque of some sort being recognized. And then, but I'm podcasting on all the other platforms as well. So we estimate probably we have viewers somewhere between 2 and 2.5 million viewers that
That's
are
amazing.
following us. And then on YouTube, subscribers, 1.1 million.
And I'm constantly trying to get into another business and another business, and my husband was really trying to slow me down all the time. But I liked that how you talked about that in your book, where you really were just kind of making it okay that we have multiple interests, that that's not a problem. I'm always working with clients that are concerned because they're wanting to start another thing and starting another thing. And if you, I guess if you feel like you're not moving forward in any of those things, then maybe that's a problem. And maybe you should get help or figure out what your next step is, or see if that really is important to you. But I did really appreciate that, as so many of us, I mean, with ADHD are just interested in so many things. And so that was very interesting to me that you said that. I appreciated that.
Yeah, so the critical part there, Mandy, is that you know the objective as a business person that learned right from the time that I was 12 years old when I started working with my hands in a furniture factory and became a furniture maker. My learning school has very much been the practical side. And I say I really got an MBA in life and doing all the stuff the hard way, and that has given me immense experience. But what I learned with ADHD, and I already always thought that in a way, is that I want to create a business that is boringly consistent in terms of what it does, the results it generates. There is only one problem with it, because if that's what I have, I become bored and I start
Hmm.
looking at other challenges. And that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
So I try to, my discipline says stay with the course, make sure it's operating correctly and deal with issues. And then at the same time, look at other opportunities. And I do that all the time.
I always talk about building habits, structures, and routines. And that's what I'm hearing you do in your businesses.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. So one question that I get frequently is saying, so John, when are you going to retire? And saying to, so then I say, to do what? I love what I'm doing now. So, and then my wife would say, please don't make him retire because I don't want him around the house. He drives me nuts. Because I'm a
My
yoga
husband and
brain.
I, my husband and I were just talking about, because we have some investments and stuff too, and we were just talking about, would you ever want to retire, really? And I said, for me, I said, well, I think I'm just going to work until my brain doesn't work. That doesn't mean I have to work hard, but I want to be doing things I love and putting things out into the world and creating things. And so, yeah, I, I feel like there's a lot of us with ADHD that feel that way, where it's like I would be bored, and we can't be bored.
No. And then the other part that probably is saying to me, what else would you say that was important to you, to me, meaning is that probably although diverticulitis nearly killed me, I came that close, because if you get all the toxins through your body, you have about 48 hours before it starts attacking your healthy system, is saying that ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important part is to be healthy and fit, and understanding your body is critically important.
Yeah.
And so so that's kind of what I do. And then the other one is going to the gym is important. And then mentally, and I see so many people that are challenged by that, is that podcasting is good for me, writing is good for me, but podcasting, what it does, especially interacting like what I do with you, keeps my brain active. And
Hmm.
between all the different meetings that we have in all the kind of different companies and doing those kind of things, that podcasting is challenging, in the sense that I never know what's going to happen. So like this with the podcast that I do, as you do, is I never quite know what's going to happen. I know one thing for sure is that, the podcast will last for an hour that I do, and I will release it within 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so, unless there is a major boo-boo, I'll give you an example. At one point, that's probably a year and a half ago or so, that I was introducing a guest, and all of a sudden the building, not this one, but that we have downtown, started shaking. It was an earthquake, and I said, "Oh my God!" I didn't swear, but there was an earthquake, and then we said afterwards, "Should we cut it out?" We said, "No, leave it in."
Yeah.
Part of the
Yeah.
podcast, you know.
When I first started doing YouTube, that is how I did it. I don't think I would have ever gotten my YouTube channel started had I not just said it is what it is. There's my cat scratching at the door while I'm trying to teach people about um about their ADHD, and it is what it is. I do edit now because I have the ability to just throw it off to the editor and they give it back to me, and then my assistant takes care of things, and that's all wonderful. But I think you're telling a very inspiring story here about just starting and just being okay with what people are doing. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It
No.
just, somebody's waiting for you to, they want to hear from you, they want to, they want to read that book, they want to, so like, let's just get it out there.
And the other one is, Mandy, it's genuine. It is, that's who I am. And so, and to have it done, and if it is overmanaged, then it becomes like, and I say that respectfully, because anybody that, makes the commitment of podcasting, is already a challenge in spite of all of that. But it takes a challenge in a way, and I'm glad that so many people do, but globally there is an opportunity where issues that we have in North America are no different than that around the globe. And so the attraction, it's only at its beginning now.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, if you watch all the traditional television stations like CNN, ABC, NBC, in Canada, CBS, CBC, CTF, V, and then BBC, and on and on and on, get less viewers all the time because
Right.
it is, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, overmanaged. And so, and this is the opposite of it, because as we are sitting here really discussing our lives in a genuine way, and people listen to it, and the hope is always that there is inspiration for others, and that,
Exactly.
and sharing with them, in particular, neurodiversity issues like ADHD, dyslexia, and others, that is not a negative. It is what it is. And what I say from my perspective and from what I've did is that, to me, it can be, and it is for me, a superpower.
Well, and that global perspective that you're talking about, I appreciate because I have clients from all over the world, Australia, Ireland, London, I think even Dubai at one point. I can't even name all the countries,
Correct.
but it's because they watched my YouTube channel or they listened to my podcast and it resonated with them. And for some of those people, where they're at, they don't have the support that they need.
No,
They can't get the medical support that they need, or ADHD isn't a thing in their country, or
not yet.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's there, but nobody's talking about it, and or
Yes.
nobody's supporting them. And so, yeah, that global reach, I appreciate you talking about that because that's very true.
And then what I always say also from my experience is give back to your community. Be part of your community, and be sensitive to others that are not quite as fortunate as we are in a lot of ways. And to me, that is important.
Yeah, very good. This has been a beautiful conversation. Where can people find you?
So the best way to find me is John A, as in Adam, or Aaron in my case, Brink, BRINK.com
Okay,
is the best way to find me.
we'll put
And
that in the
then
show notes.
all my books are available on Amazon. They are audibles as well. as
Hmm.
you can understand, and say, oh, with dyslexia, that must not have gone too well to read the books. It takes me longer than others, but I think it's important for me to do that. And that's what I did. And I don't know if you listened to my Audible on ADHD when you said you went in the car and you listened to it, maybe.
Yeah. I love audiobooks and I
Yeah, I
read
do too.
so many books. And when I saw you had books on ADHD, I was so excited to read it. So it's a very good book. I was curious about something about the book actually. I love that we ended on that because I want to talk about that. It's done in an interview style. How
Yes.
are many of your books done that way, or did you just do it with this one? How did you land on the idea of doing an interview style?
So yeah, writing books is not something that came natural to me, although I've always been, even when I was in school, not overly successful. I was always a good writer and a good storyteller. I'm a storyteller. That's who I am. And
Mm,
so my style followed that right when I started and against all odds and saying, how
okay.
can I make it interesting? And then a style that I'm somewhat predictable to others as I go through against all odds is the one. ADHD was the second one. The third one is ending your passion, living the dream.
Mm,
And that was important because a lot of people don't like their jobs. And I say, find your passion and then living the dream was important. And then
I
this
love
one,
that.
living young, dying old was important. And then the last one that I did, bestseller on Amazon actually is Billion Dollar Communication Skills. And it's about
Yeah.
communication skills as being all these guys, these billionaires. It's not a book how to become a billionaire, although I hope they do. And it's not saying that you should. But the question is, what made them become successfully financially? And that is some communication skills.
Mm. And I
All
know
of them.
you mentioned in the book that you've had to really work on your communication skills over the years.
I did.
That I remember you talked about walking into a meeting, I believe, and just freezing and not being able to say anything. How did you fix that? I don't recall.
So that particular meeting was a critical meeting from a business perspective. I did a fantastic presentation in writing, and then I had ministers and economic advisors and all of them sitting there, and I had the podium. I couldn't say a word. I
Mm,
was so immensely ashamed, you know. So how did I fix it? Is that in late 1980s, a friend invited me to Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is you're familiar with it,
I've
just
heard
for
so many successful people, so really successful communicators talk about Toastmasters really made the difference for them.
and so they took me to a meeting of Toastmasters, and probably tens of millions of people are part of it. And for people watching us, go to Google and you can find out about it saying that. So they took me to the first meeting and they said, just to watch. And I said, is somebody going to ask me questions? They said, no. Okay, so then just sit and watch. And in the middle of the meeting, somebody said, hey, John, tell us all about you. I said, I'll never go back here. But I did. And so I could have crawled out of that meeting and several that after that I stayed. I knew I had to stay the course. And then I stayed there for 10 years, became a distinguished Toastmaster, the highest level in Toastmasters, and it changed my life. So for me, what changed my life is the Canadians liberating Holland and me and the dream of going to Canada. The second one was landing in Vancouver was nothing here in Prince George was the dream of building a lumber mill, and I did. And then the other one was finding, probably the first one was actually Toastmasters, and that changed my life. The second one was in 1997 when I found a book about ADHD and Dr. Hallowell. By
The two,
then, I was
ADHD 2.0, I believe, wasn't it?
yeah, driven to distraction.
Oh, that one.
The
Yes. Okay.
title. And
Yeah.
so the combination of all of that changed my life. By then I was 62 years young already. And so, and I said, I'm going to live till I'm 120. So I'm still only half eight by then.
I love that. That is such a great attitude. Well, I love your positivity. I love your work ethic. I love that you're willing to be so genuine and and put yourself out to the world so that people can be inspired and understand themselves. And I just really appreciate this conversation.
Thanks, Manny. It was a pleasure. Yeah, and then check out some of my podcasts.
Yes, definitely. That's good. That's
Wonderful.
going to happen today.
Okay.
All right. So nice to meet with you.
Thanks, Manny. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye. Thank you for your time today and especially your attention. If you're anything like me, you love to learn. Sometimes, though, we can know what to do but struggle to put it into action without the right support. That's what private ADHD coaching is for, to give you the unique support and accountability you need to make the change you know is possible. Book a free consultation with me today at www.learntothrivewithadhd.com/services. I look forward to meeting you.